Tekstilet që po shohim këtu e që kanë funksione të shëndetshme janë pika kryesore e ekspozitës narrativat globale në tekstil. Ekspozitë kjo që na sjell aspekte qoftë vizuale, pastaj shpirtërore e shumë të tjera. Ajo që duhet theksuar është se krahas artistëve pas të kësaj ekspozite shëtitse, gjithashtu dialogojnë veprat edhe të 10 artistëve të tjerë vendor dhe ndërkombëtar e të cilët na sjellin rrëfimet prej vendeve përkatëse prej nga vijnë ata. Ekspozita transformohet në një medium të hapur në të cilën është e mundur të krijohet një rrjet i lidhjeve lokale dhe të eksplorohen ndërvarësitë globale që kanë ekzistuar për breza të tërë. Her pas her, motivet e tekstilit ndërlidhen mes vete dhe korrespondojnë, përputhen ose shpërbëhen.
The exhibition is the event of a thread. It's on global textiles, narratives in textiles. We started with questions, what can we read from textiles? What do they communicate? What are the meanings and conditions, how they come to life? Textiles we find in every culture. It's a touring exhibition, so every time we come to a new city, in a new museum, we connect with the local textile histories and invite more contemporary artists. It's about really the textiles in the contemporary art world.
And what information do textile restore in this exhibition?
For example, here we are in front of the work Technique by Elisa van Jollen and Vincent Woldsma. There they refer back to hand-woven textiles from the Navajo, North American indigenous people that use textiles to communicate about the meaning, the symbols of their daily life. Later, a company came and used the patterns to distribute it.
Historia e punëtorisë së tekstilit Bauhaus luan një rol të rëndësishëm në këtë ekspozitë. I themeluar në vitin 1919, Bauhaus mori idenë e ndërveprimit midis artit, zanatit dhe industrisë nga shoqata gjermane e artistëve, arkitektëve, dizajnerëve dhe industrialistëve.
This is something we developed especially for the exhibition. It's like a starting point in a way. Bauhaus is not maybe especially known for their textiles, but the Bauhaus Textile Workshop was the most successful, also commercially, workshop. The women who came to the Bauhaus, they wanted to study art. And what happened at the beginning when they came to the Bauhaus, they created a weaving class for them because they thought, they are women, they should weave. So a lot of women like Annie Albers, Gunther Stölze, all there, they came there and thought, now we are going to study art. And then they were sent to the weaving class and they were self-teaching each other weaving. They were very inspired. They studied kilims, Persian carpets, all this. They studied the history of textile art and were inspired by this and started to do like single carpets, unique pieces, which became very famous. They were influenced by artists like Paul Klee and so on, who were their teachers.
And also we have to mention the history of the Bauhaus, which plays an important role in this exhibition.
This was actually the starting point. The touring exhibition was developed in 2016-17 when we celebrated in Germany 100 years of Bauhaus, and we invited an artist to look into the textile workshop of the Bauhaus and how their art came into a new connection with the daily life and how also the female weavers took an active role as artists. It was the first time that in the European art world textiles were considered as a proper artistic medium, though in all cultures of this world it is an artistic medium, so we come to a new understanding of the values of textiles as an art form.
Kjo ekspozit ka për qëllim t'i jap kuptime të reja temave të trupit, gjinisë, relacioneve sociale, materialitetit dhe historive kombëtare përmes përdorimit të tekstilit. Duke reflektuar mbi traditat e kaluara të thurjes, derisa nxisin edhe ngjarjet aktuale, veprat e ekspozuara përmbledhin dhe riimagjinojnë kohën dhe kujtesën.
I think textile as a medium, and art has been often either separated or looked down to, or people classified it, as something specific female because it follows tradition. Although weavers were primarily men, it's also a very heavy work, but at home, of course, textile work was also a lot done, and also artisan textile work like stitching and all this was also done in the bourgeois classes. So there's like a huge history, as textiles is as old as mankind, so to say. It's really the closest to the body architecture, you could say, and has a lot to do with our nomadic life and sort of how it influenced us, I would say. And so the history of textile art, has undergone, I think, a lot of changes, and it became then also a very feministic medium at one point again.
Në Galerinë Kombëtare të Kosovës, ku është prezantuar ekspozita shëtitëse me thurjen e ndërlikuar të narrativave nga pjesë të ndryshme të botës dhe nisjen e dialogut të ri në kontekstin lokal, artistët kanë shpalosur tregimet e tyre që janë të thurura me shkatësi në pëlhura dhe skulpturat e tekstilit, duke theksuar natyrën dinamike dhe të gjithanshme të fibrave.
Every time we come to a new museum, we invite a local curator, to think about the narratives in a textile history of a region. And every time we have new constellations also in this space. We find works from the collection of the National Gallery. We have an outstanding artist that was active in the 70s, Valbona, who is also having a solo exhibition in Pristina, opening today. We are on Wednesday. So every time we find new constellation between the pieces and get a new understanding and a new connection. So we learn so much, and every time it's an adventure and quite exciting. And we learn from it, and it's important.
Also, the artworks are mixed with each other.
Exactly. Also in this space and in all spaces, we find new dialogues between artworks. An exhibition is a visual communication in a space, so the works start to communicate with each other through the textiles.
And how was the cooperation between the artist and the US curator?
We are very closely working with artists. This is part of our artistic practice, that we start from what they do, not inventing a theme and then grouping them, but really understanding their practice first. And here with Hannah, the curator from the museum, we had an extremely enriching and inspiring cooperation. And then she introduced us also to artists that live in the diaspora, Kosovan Albanian artists that are in Paris, in Los Angeles. So we have really also those different geographies that come into play.
Krahas veçorive dalluese të veprave, kjo ekspozitë shqyrton më tej kryqëzimin e artit abstrakt me tekstile, duke ilustruar se si marrëdhënie dinamike mes artit abstrakt, dizajnit dhe zanatit kanë formuar forma të përsëritura estetike dhe skulpturore.
I think it's also a very feministic take with Valbona's work and other works the co-curator Hannah Halilay brought here to the show. So there's many female stories you find, but also a lot of stories about Kosovo and identity. I think textiles also has a lot to do with identity, how we can read them, and
which are inspired maybe also from their grandmothers and
yes, absolutely. I think we also we have at least 2 works in the show where it is also a co-production, Driton Selmanis, who did a work also in cooperation with his mom, who was stitching a map of Kosovo, of Europe, and placing Kosovo in there, and then he took a conceptual take. So there was another work of David Horowitz, which was also in cooperation with the Halilai family, one could say, where also the mother was involved in producing this work. So I think here it's really a lot also about national identity, but also looking at the narratives and the history and the role of Kosovo in the Balkans, you could say.
Përveç hapjes së ekspozitës, do të publikohet edhe katalogu I cili përmban tekste kuratoriale dhe intervista me artistët rreth praktikës së tyre dhe mbi tekstilin. Po ashtu, ekspozita do të plotësohet edhe me programe publike duke përfshirë punëtori me grup mosha të ndryshme, biseda me artistët, programi filmit dhe udhërëfime.